A person who is free to fail and free to succeed is unstoppable. Some of the fiercest competitors and performers of all time have a quality that is invisible, that is part of their iconic success and their tremendous demonstration of capability and performance within their arena. My name is Oren Harris. I play at the intersection of spirituality, art, and high performance. I am a bridge between the mystical and the practical. So I'm going to unpack in this video, what is that invisible secret? It has to do with our relationship between success and failure. I'm going to unpack the deep unseen layers that in my experience are the most significant things to develop if you want to become more unstoppable. So I'll start with a story that I heard about Kobe Bryant when he was playing basketball over the summer. I think he was around 11 or 12 years old. I heard him tell this story that really, really inspired me, but it also helped me see that he had this rare quality that I'm going to share here. And what he said was he went an entire summer without scoring a point. Not a basket, not a breakaway, not a free throw. First of all, that blew my mind because Kobe Bryant, rest in peace to the legend Kobe Bryant, is one of the most prolific scorers in NBA history. He's an absolute beast. That is just shocking that he went an entire summer playing basketball, organized basketball, without scoring a point. But here's what he said. He said that his father said, whether you score 0 points or 60 points, I love you. I love you just the same. That hit me to the core, and it helped really reveal something about Kobe Bryant that I could feel, that invisible secret sauce, but I hadn't heard the story. I didn't have anything to back up my intuition. So let's unpack this because this is huge. There are so many different things that we can study or develop or practice or understand in having a more empowered relationship to success and to failure. But what I'm talking about here is actually transcendent of success and failure. And this transcendence that I'll describe in many different ways actually empowers us to be exponentially more successful because we're breaking free from this duality, breaking free. That's what I said, free to be successful and free to fail, free to succeed and free to fail. So what does that mean, the word free? So in Kobe's case, we're talking about emotional freedom, the freedom to fail. If I fail, then I'm still worthy. I'm still valuable. I will still be loved. I still deserve love. I'm still worthy of love just the same. This is so massive that it escapes most people. So simple, so profoundly simple. I love you either way. And that message coming from a parent, coming from the people that are the closest to us, that we look up to in our formative years as a youth, that type of message is creating an emotional freedom around failure. So let's talk about the opposite of that. When we weren't raised that way, when we weren't conditioned in that way, what happens is that as we are learning, growing, expanding, performing, competing, moving towards success throughout our lives, at some point, all of us, to some degree, start to internalize our value connected to success or failure. So now it's not just I'm succeeding or I'm failing, it's I am a success or I am a failure, which is code for I am not as valuable, worthy, or significant as when I succeed. And as soon as that program kicks in, it starts to replicate itself. It starts to perpetuate itself like a virus in our system, in our consciousness. So now we are not only giving our will and our determination and our efforts towards succeeding, but low-key, subconsciously, we're also trying to not fail. Not because failure is inherently bad, but because of the emotional charge that we have developed around failure that has seeped into our identity structure. And this is the detriment. This is the lack of freedom to fail. That emotional freedom comes from knowing the truth that we are worthy, that you are a child of God, that you are valuable just for being. And in truth, there is no association between our self-worth and our value and failing or succeeding. So we'll talk about the freedom on the other end, the freedom to succeed, but these are intimately connected. When we fail early in life, whether that's failing a test, failing and not meeting up to our standards or expectations in school or in any endeavor, when we're going from failing to succeeding, what happens is, and this is often innocent, in our family unit, in our peer groups, in the classroom, not only are we succeeding or failing just in the most fundamental, basic sense of engaging with the process, but now we become the cool kid when we're succeeding. We become the smart kid in the classroom when you get the right answer. And then when we're rewarded and people are like, wow, you're amazing. Look at you. Not only is your success amazing, but that means that you're amazing. Let me give you more love, more adoration, more accolades. And then the opposite side of that is you get less adoration, less accolades, less reflections of significance. And if you are in abusive environments, then you might even get a negative, like you are a failure. You are not worthy. So these are the things that bind us up in our heart. And then if we create an identity or it seeps into our identity, then now it's siphoning our energy and our power in the background, because now we're not just invested in the process, in the game, in whatever we're doing that we're moving towards and trying to succeed. We have this other investment of, I can't fail because I do not like the feeling of not being loved, of feeling shame. And the reason we don't like it is because it's not the truth. And that's why if we compensate for that, then that becomes part of our identity. It also becomes our limitation. That's how deep this is. So Kobe Bryant had the emotional freedom. And so to complete that story, he said, well, once I knew that, I had the safety, the emotional safety, the emotional freedom that I'm going to be loved. I'm going to be valuable no matter what. If I score 0 or if I score 60, he said, to hell with that. I'm scoring 60. That is phenomenal. And that is rare that someone has that ingrained in them from the place that it matters the most. But this is something that you can give to yourself. So this is what I mean by the freedom to fail, because when we free up our consciousness, when we free up our power from any investment on trying to not fail, but trying to avoid feeling shame, feeling judgment, feeling unworthy, fighting the illusion of unworthiness, we free up that power to direct it towards our success. So the other side of that, which I already started alluding to, is the freedom to succeed. Are you free to succeed? Because succeeding does not imply that you are free to succeed, because you could still be attaching your sense of significance, your sense of self-worth now to success, to people's praise versus their blame. What I'm speaking of is transcending the praise and the blame. Appreciate the praise, appreciate the love, but it doesn't become part of your identity. The way that it becomes part of your identity is when you start to absorb it and internalize it, like, oh, this appreciation, these people loving me, these accolades, this praise means that I'm worthy and valuable. That's when we now attach to it, and we need it, and we need that significance to survive. So that's the limitation in being attached to success in that way, internalizing the success as to imply that it says something about our self-worth, which it actually says nothing. Because in the eyes of truth, in the eyes of love, in the eyes of God, you are worthy, full stop, mic drop, period. So this is a game changer, not to understand, but to go through the internal journey, the process of delinking your self-worth and your value from succeeding and from failing. So where a lot of performers will advance in the realm of failure, and this is kind of like the leading edge of what's available in success and motivation, which is helpful, is to develop a healthy relationship to failure, to reframe failure. Like, failure, I don't fail, I just learn. It's just more information. So these are typical success things that you've heard, and I recommend to use them because they are helpful. They help shift your mindset around failure to reframe it and define it as something that is positive. Right? Another popular one is to just focus on the process. Don't focus on succeeding and failing. Focus on the process. Focus on the love of the game. Focus on the love of whatever it is that you're doing, of the engagement with the activity that you are doing. That can also take you out of the emotional charge and the mental gymnastics, the mental constraints of I have to succeed and I can't fail. So that can bring freedom, but freedom in the heart, that's deeper. That's at the core of all of this, is who you are, your true identity. It's liberating yourself from the duality, the emotional charges of failure and success. That frees you up emotionally. So if you free yourself up in the heart, and you free yourself in the mind, this is where the reframe comes from. You free up your mind and you redefine with your own mind your relationship to failure and success. If you have the heart and the mind, then you also start to tap into the spirit, because that's also part of being unstoppable as a performer. You can really meet with the leading edge of your capacity to succeed, to perform, by engaging with the love of the game, engaging with growth and elevation and performance as it exists in spirit. Your true potential, not from shame or judgment or blame or any of these emotional charges and mental projections, but purely in glory to God, to honor the potential that you've been given. You see, there's something pure about that. There's something natural about that. And that's what I mean by awakening from the illusion of attaching your self-worth to these things, to your creations, to your performance. A baby is a really pure example of this. One of the reasons that babies have this genius, supernatural learning capacity and can learn multiple languages and can learn multiple things and so many things, everything is learning. One of the reasons that they can learn so fast and so fluidly is because of exactly what I'm pointing to, exactly what I'm illuminating here. A baby learning to walk is not like, oh my God, I should know how to walk by now. I should be running by now. My other 2-year-old friends are walking. And Johnny, he's running around the living room and here I am still failing. So as they're stumbling and bumping and weeble wobbling and getting up and roly-poly on the floor and bumping their head on the coffee table, feel the energy of what I'm saying, because that's the thing that I'm saying is rare. They are failing. They are course correcting, but they're not experiencing failure. There's no concept of failure. And most importantly, there's no internalization of self-worth. Like, I should know how to do this. I tried to stand up, right? My joints aren't developed enough, and I fell down into a mush puddle. They're not going, what's wrong with me? I should, coming from the mind, I should know how to do this. I feel ashamed, because this is how the identity starts to form. So they're in a more pure, direct engagement with the process, with the love, with the evolutionary impulse naturally built in to grow, to develop, to become a better performer. In this example, the performance would be learning to walk. So they've trimmed off all the excess BS of the mind, the belief system, the false belief system of the mind, that their progress is linked to their self-worth at all. So you may be like, well, but I'm not a baby. I'm a grown adult. But the truth is the truth, not just for babies. The truth is the truth now and always. The truth about who you are, the truth in what I'm saying is still true. Yes, you have to do some work, maybe some healing, to remember, to return to the truth, but it is so worth it. And if you are a high performer, this dimension of performance is rarely practiced because it's rarely even understood. The person who is free to succeed and free to fail, because they're anchored in truth, is unstoppable. And God inside you, God moving through you, which is also part of our potential. It's a huge part of our potential, is the power of God in us. It empowers God to be able to co-create through you, which takes your performance to another level. This is one of the things, by the way, that's happening when we're in a flow state. Somehow, some way, by an act of wisdom or spontaneously or the right conditions in order, we snap out of the I, the identity. That's at the center of this whole entire conversation. Somehow when we're in a flow state, we get beyond the I. And when we get beyond the I, which is where a lot of our self-imposed limitations, the identity, then we merge with the broader context of who we are as souls and our connection with God. And so as that consciousness expands, that equals exponentially increased performance. This is when you are the best, most badass version of yourself. Almost unexplainable, sometimes miraculous. You're like, wow, I'm in the zone right now. How is all of this increase in performance and ability and capacity, where is it coming from? When athletes are interviewed, and this goes across all industry, I'm just using athletes because I'm an athlete, as well as an entrepreneur, as well as an artist. When athletes are interviewed, like, what were you thinking about? Like, how did you perform at such a level? How did you, tell us the secret. Tell us what's going on. What were you thinking about? What was going on in your mind? And across the board, the answer is always some version of nothing. I wasn't thinking. This is where being merges with doing. And so all of these things existing in the identity, when we're in a flow state, we've expanded beyond them. Those emotionally charged things of I'm important, I'm significant, I'm more worthy, I'm less significant, I'm less important, I'm less worthy. I've got to win this game, not just because I love the game, but I got to prove it to myself. I got to prove it to my father. All these things that could be going on and are unconscious that are actually limiting us. When we're in a flow state, we have transcended the density, the emotionally charged, all these things going on in our subconscious, and that is why we naturally are going to perform at an exponentially higher level. This is part of the understanding, the perspective, and the practice of becoming an awakened high performer is to get into right relationship with success and failure, both in heart, in spirit, and in identity. To where now you are like the baby and it's just like, I love the game. And that's when the obsession to win is not connected to the identity, but is connected to the greatness of God moving in you, through you, as you. That drive, when it's no longer anchored in our emotional survival, trying to fit into the tribe, trying to belong, when we transcend that, it liberates so much power, and that translates as greater performance. So now the will to win, the desire to win, is more of a personal game. It's nothing to do with anybody. It's not tied up in our self-worth. It's not tied up in the mind. It's tied up in our actual potential, or our actual divine gifting and capacity that has been given to us. And the reason why we're so naturally inclined and obsessed and passionate and inspired about our craft, about our game that we are playing, whether it's sport or you are a CEO, now you are unstoppable. Now your capacity truly becomes limitless because you've let go of all of this dead weight, like literally moving you towards death, towards things that are not life-giving, towards things that you can't ever accomplish, like to be more worthy because you already are worthy. So when you dissolve that false pursuit of worthiness, that false pursuit of significance that can never be fulfilled, now gets replaced with healthy pride, with honor in knowing that you gave your best, because that is the actual measure of success in your soul, in your spirit, in your being. It doesn't mean you don't want to win. It's just that there's no separation between the desire to win and really the pure desire to be in this competition between you and you, between you and your own potential. You see, there's no judgment in that. That's just an awareness and a presence and a devotion to fulfill the God-given potential that you have been given. That's what's winning, and that also is what will create fulfillment. As Tony Robbins said, success without fulfillment is failure. When you are not in proper relationship to success and failure, then even when you succeed, yay! It's like, I need more, I need more, I need more accolades, more praise, I need to sustain this. But you know what that lacks? It lacks fulfillment, because fulfillment comes from the soul. Fulfillment comes from true honor and you knowing that you gave your best, that you were devoted, that you gave your full heart and soul, that you gave the greatest gift you can give to God, which is to fulfill what God has given you, to give the gifts. You see, that's where fulfillment and satisfaction, not as a concept, but as an actual visceral experience. That's where that comes from. It doesn't come from the scoreboard. It doesn't come from the numbers in your bank account. It doesn't come from the accolades from the crowd. None of that can create what that true fulfillment actually is. And that is what we're seeking. Not just to win the game, but to be fulfilled. You see, so when we seek ye first the kingdom, all else will be added. When we make the main thing, when we make it about the process itself, when we make it about fulfilling the gifts God has given us, when we make it about the honor, when we give our devotion to doing our best, that's like the kingdom. And then we have released our attachments to success and failure. And the net result of that is we succeed a lot more. Interesting paradox. When we transcend success and failure in the way that I'm talking about it, our capacity to actually win, to actually succeed, is extraordinarily higher than when we're dancing in this pendulum swing of duality of succeeding and failing. So not only do we get the ultimate in capacity as a performer to play at the highest level, to be unstoppable, but we also get that deep soul satisfaction and fulfillment. Thank God that I have rediscovered, remembered, developed true right relationship with being a winner, which doesn't exist within the emotionally charged duality of being a winner versus being a loser. Being a winner means I'm devoted. I'm engaged in the process. I'm engaged in the truth of the process and the love of what it is that I'm doing and that process of evolution that is driving me, just like the baby learning to walk. So it is so worth the journey. And if this is lighting you up and you are a visionary, a high performer in some arena, and you are looking to be in the dojo with somebody who can see you full spectrum from this perspective, and who's not just a spiritually attuned person, but a winner in the world in all areas of my life, if you resonate with being an awakened high performer in alignment with your soul, in alignment with and obedient to God and to your true potential, and you are ambitious and you have big vision, big goals, big dreams, big things you're up to in the world, I might be your guy. All right, that is all for now. Peace.